So E3 2016 has drawn to a close. Everyone's packing up shop and heading back home, but that doesn't mean that I'm quite done talking about the games that were shown off at this year's E3 press conference. In fact, I have went through and selected 5 games that I thought really stood out amongst those that were shown off at E3, and we're going to be crowning one of these game of the show, at least from my perspective. And again, this is going to be my own personal opinion that you might disagree with, and that's perfectly fine. We're all entitled to our opinions. It's 2016, that's kind of the idea for the entire year, mind you. So if you're into that kind of thing, if you want to see what I thought was the best game shown off at E3 2016, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So the first nomination is We Happy Few, because I love the concept and the look of this game. So if you aren't familiar, We Happy Few takes place in the 60s, where pretty much people are taking this drug called joy that kind of makes them oblivious to what's going on in the dystopian kind of world that's around them. And we don't really know who the antagonist is in this, who the bad guy is, so to speak, but you do choose to not take the drug, and everyone suddenly catches on, and you start being attacked by the people that want you to just take your joy, shut up, and live life. That is an incredible commentary on what kind of world we are living in right now, and I can't wait to play this and experience that for myself. So the next game that gets a nomination is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and this game really took me by surprise because I actually thought that this was Hideo Kojima's new project that he had begun working on after he kind of split with Konami, because it does look and play a lot like the Silent Hill playable trailer. However, that is not the case. It's actually a new Resident Evil game that is returning to the horror roots where the franchise began, and I feel like that's a pretty good move, because with Resident Evil 6 being, well, to put it lightly, an abysmal failure, and the game franchise just kind of drifting from its roots over the course of the past few years, it's nice to see them locking it back down and saying, alright, this is where we began, this is where we need to return to, and this is where we're going to be taking the franchise going forward. The next nomination goes to Sony Santa Monica's God of War. This is because, and it's coming from me, I had completely lost interest in the God of War franchise. I had no interest in going back to any kind of Greek mythology. Kratos, to me, had been overused multiple times, and I felt like it was just time to finally put a nail in the coffin for the entire God of War franchise. That being said, they have gone back, they have continued the story of Kratos, while also introducing a new setting, a new story, some new mythology overall, and also some new gameplay that's going to keep things fresh. So I'm excited to see where this one goes, and it definitely deserves a nomination on this list. So next up we have Horizon Zero Dawn, which is getting a nomination for a couple of reasons. Number one, because it's coming to us from Guerrilla, who is actually famous for Killzone, and if you have seen any kind of Killzone gameplay and compare that to the Horizon Zero Dawn gameplay that we saw at E3 2016, these are two completely and totally different ideas, and it just goes to show that a studio can try new things and be successful at it instead of just sticking to their guns and what they know. And then you have the game itself, which has an incredible setting, number one, and number two, the gameplay appears to combine elements from a lot of different genres. You have RPG mechanics in there, you have crafting elements that you might see in, say, Far Cry or another RPG game like The Witcher, and then you have that obvious third-person shooter mechanic, and it looks to be a very unique experience that's going to draw in a crowd from a lot of different genres that might not necessarily always have common ground, but they definitely will with this one. So the fifth and final nomination does go to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, I am not a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda. I never really have been. It just never really resounded with me. It didn't, strike a chord with the kind of gameplay experiences that I wanted to put a lot of time into and that really hooked me in. That being said, Zelda fans are really interested in Breath of the Wild because it's pretty much, and I know this is an overused statement, Skyrim set in the world of Hyrule, and it's pretty much where you can wander around and do quests, you can just explore the land of Hyrule, and it is a very vast experience. Now, I have watched about 45 minutes of gameplay, and graphically, the game isn't great. It's running on a Wii U, so what can you expect? That being said, it still looks great with the kind of art style that they are choosing to go with, and whenever this thing comes out on the NX, that's when it's going to get really interesting. So when it comes down to it, what is my game of the show for E3 2016? It's a very hard decision because there are so many incredible games and experiences that aren't even on this list that I could have, nominated as a game of the show. But when it comes down to it, the game that really blew me away was God of War, coming to us from Sony Santa Monica. And yes, it's a PlayStation 4 exclusive, but the God of War franchise was, like I said, getting stale, and Sony Santa Monica is breathing new life into it in a way that I never expected. Because, as we all know, Kratos is a demigod demigod. He's between God and man, and it seems like the past God of War games have focused on that God aspect of Kratos, where he can unleash his wrath, he can unleash this fury that no one else can unleash on his enemies, and it captures that violence that you would expect from a god. But we never really see the man side of Kratos, that humane aspect of who he actually is, and that's what we're seeing with the new God of War, with the new story that includes his son, some kind of wife that he had in the past. It's a very interesting take for the God of War universe, and I can't wait to see what that story holds whenever the game comes out, more than likely in 2017. So there you guys have it. Let me know in the comment section down below what your game of the show for this year was. And of course, if you are new to the channel, I covered E3 2016 extensively all week, and there's an entire playlist right on the front part of my channel, so you can give that a click and, sit back and enjoy. But as for right now, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for watching this particular video. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.